At 79, Barry Gibb is finally revealing the truth about Cliff Richard. But to understand why his words matter now, you have to go back to where it all began. Barry Gibb entered the world as Barry Allen Crompton Gibb on September 1st, 1946, in Douglas on the Isle of Man, the quiet birthplace of a boy who would one day shape global music culture. He was the second of 5 children in the remarkably gifted Gibb family, a household where creativity wasn't just encouraged, it was the heartbeat of everyday life. His parents, Hugh and Barbara Gibb, built a home filled with rhythm, warmth, and endless possibility. It was in this environment that Barry's fascination with melody and harmony took root, growing stronger with every passing year. Even as a young boy, Barry showed something rare, an uncanny ability to craft songs that blended raw, emotional honesty with structure far beyond his age. This natural gift, powerful and unmistakable, would become the foundation of a legendary career lasting more than 6 decades. Everything began shifting when the Gibb family relocated first to Manchester, England, and then to Redcliffe, Queensland, Australia. Each move opened new doors, sharpening Barry's ambitions and giving him fresh ground to explore his growing talent. And he wasn't alone. Standing beside him were his younger twin brothers, Maurice and Robin, partners in music, in dreams, and in the creative spark that would change their lives forever, setting the stage for everything that would follow, including the truth he now shares about Cliff Richard. Long before the world knew their name, the formation of the Bee Gees felt like something written in the stars. In the late 1950s, 3 brothers, Barry, Robin, and Maurice, began singing together, not because they were chasing fame, but because something magical happened every time their voices blended. Those early harmonies weren't just good, they were unmistakable. They carried a tone, a warmth, a unity that hinted at a future the world was not yet prepared for. Performing in small Australian venues, the boys weren't global icons yet. They were 3 kids perfecting a sound that would one day define an era. Their breakthrough came in the mid-1960s when influential DJ Bill Gates and producer Robert Stigwood heard what the rest of the world soon would. This wasn't just another band. This was a movement waiting to happen. They brought the brothers to England, and from that moment forward, everything changed. What followed was nothing short of a musical explosion. The Bee Gees skyrocketed into global fame, becoming synonymous with chart-topping hits that effortlessly crossed genres. Their 1960s ballads, To Love Somebody, Massachusetts, captured hearts with tenderness and depth. Then came the 1970s, when the brothers didn't just enter the disco era, they defined it. Stayin' Alive, Night Fever, How Deep Is Your Love? These weren't just songs, they were cultural earthquakes. At the center of it all stood Barry, the eldest brother and the creative compass of the group. His falsetto became one of the most recognizable sounds in music. His songwriting? Timeless. His production techniques? Decades ahead of their time. The 1970s became Barry Gibb's golden era as he helped ignite a disco revolution that reshaped the global music landscape. And then came the phenomenon, the Bee Gees' contributions to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. It became one of the best-selling albums in history, winning Grammys and forever cementing their place as cultural icons. But Barry didn't stop with the Bee Gees. His genius overflowed far beyond the trio. He wrote and produced hits for some of the biggest names in music, Barbra Streisand with Guilty, Diana Ross with Chain Reaction, and Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton with the legendary Islands in the Stream. His ability to evolve with shifting musical trends while never losing the emotional core of his work made him one of the most versatile and influential figures the music world has ever seen. It's one thing to build a legacy, it's another to carry one alone. For Barry Gibb, the world saw the fame, the awards, the legendary music. But behind the spotlight was a man walking through shadows most people could never survive. Barry's journey was marked by brilliance, yes, but also by heartbreak that would have crushed a lesser soul. The deaths of his brothers, Andy in 1988, Maurice in 2003, and Robin in 2012 did more than break his heart. Each loss felt like losing a piece of himself, a piece of the harmony that had defined his entire life. Every goodbye wasn't just a family tragedy. It was the slow fading of a creative bond that had shaped the sound of a generation. And yet, Barry didn't stop. He didn't walk away from the music that hurt to remember and hurt even more to live without. Instead, he carried on, pouring his grief, love, and wisdom into every note. His later solo work, especially In the Now, 2016, reveals a man stripped of illusions, creating from a place of honesty, vulnerability, and emotional depth. These songs aren't just music. They're windows into a soul that has endured both unimaginable success and unimaginable loss. Barry has often said that he feels the presence of his brothers whenever he performs, as if the bond they formed through song somehow transcended death. It's a connection that will never fade, a harmony that still echoes in the quiet moments of his life. Today, Barry Gibb's legacy stands unmatched. Few artists in history can say they've written or co-written 16 #1 hits in the United States. His influence stretches far beyond genres, generations, and eras. He has been inducted into both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And in 2018, Queen Elizabeth II knighted him for his contributions to music and charity, an honor that speaks not only to his talent, but to his character. His unmistakable falsetto, soulful performances, and deeply felt lyrics continue to inspire musicians around the world. Barry Gibb didn't just survive tragedy, he transformed it into timeless art, and that is a legacy no loss can erase. Barry's romantic journey reads like a story woven with fame, heartbreak, and the kind of enduring love most people only dream about. His personal life, just like his legendary music career, has been filled with dramatic turns, emotional lessons, and moments that defined who he would become. From his early marriage to Maureen Bates to finding true, lifelong companionship with Linda Gray, each chapter tells a deeper story about the man behind the music, the pressures he faced, the love he found, and the stability that ultimately shaped him as both an artist and a human being. Barry Gibb married Maureen Bates in 1966, at a time when he was still a young man standing on the edge of global stardom. The Bee Gees were only beginning to form their identity, and Barry was trying to balance the mounting pressures of an emerging music career with the responsibilities of marriage. By many accounts, Maureen offered emotional support and a sense of calm in those early uncertain years when the Gibb brothers were still searching for their place in the world. Together, they lived a modest, mostly private life, far away from the blinding glare of show business. But as fame began tightening its grip on Barry's world, the explosive demands of his rising career placed increasing strain on their relationship. The chaos of touring, endless recording sessions, and constant public attention made it nearly impossible for the young couple to hold on to a sense of normalcy. After 4 years, their marriage came to an end in 1970. Though brief, the relationship marked a critical turning point in Barry's life, a period of intense self-discovery and emotional growing pains, all unfolding under the unforgiving spotlight of fame. His time with Maureen taught him important lessons about love, loyalty, and the sacrifices demanded by success. But destiny wasn't finished with Barry Gibb yet. That very same year, fate stepped in with remarkable timing when he met Linda Gray, the woman who would become not only his wife, but his anchor through decades of dizzying highs and devastating lows. Linda, a former Miss Edinburgh and Scottish beauty queen, carried a quiet strength and timeless grace that captivated Barry the moment their paths crossed. At the height of the Bee Gees' meteoric rise in the early 1970s, when the brothers were transforming from promising pop artists to international sensations, fate introduced Barry Gibb to Linda Gray, and it was a meeting that would change everything. Amid the chaos of flashing cameras, sold-out arenas, and the dizzying glamour of fame, Barry found something rare. A calm, grounded presence in Linda. Her poise, warmth, and down-to-earth nature offered a refreshing contrast to the whirlwind around him, and he was instantly captivated. Their connection ignited quickly, and by September 1st, 1970, they were married. A union that would go on to become one of the most enduring and admired love stories in show business history. Throughout their decades together, Linda Gray became more than Barry's wife. She became his anchor. In a life defined by dizzying fame, relentless touring schedules, and the intense pressures of family and career, she offered unwavering support, emotional refuge, and guidance. She wasn't just by his side, she was his steady foundation, the quiet strength that allowed him to navigate the highs and lows of life in the spotlight. Together, they built a family that reflected the depth of their bond, raising 5 children: Stephen, Ashley, Travis, Michael, and Alexandra. Though occasionally shadowed by the trials of fame and personal loss, was rooted in love, mutual respect, and spiritual connection. Linda remained steadfast through every challenge, from the dizzying heights of the Bee Gees' disco-era dominance to the heartbreak of losing Barry's brothers, Maurice and Robin. She stood by him through exhaustion, grief, and the emotional toll of outliving the siblings who had shared his extraordinary musical journey. In interviews, Barry has often acknowledged the profound impact Linda had on his life, calling her the one who saved him emotionally and spiritually. Without her, the whirlwind of fame might have consumed him, but with her, he found not just love, but enduring stability, partnership, and a home where both his heart and his music could thrive. Barry Gibb has always been a man defined by music. But behind the spotlight, it was one woman who truly kept him grounded. He has spoken candidly about how her unwavering love gave him the strength to endure when the world around him seemed to crumble. "Linda is my rock," he once said, highlighting how her loyalty and devotion shielded him from the darker temptations of fame. In an industry notorious for fleeting relationships, their marriage stands out as a rare example of genuine partnership, a bond that has endured decades of public scrutiny and personal trials. Their love story, which began more than 50 years ago, continues to flourish today as they enjoy their later years together in relative peace, retreating to their Miami home surrounded by family, memories, and a lifetime of shared adventures. Yet even after decades of friendship, admiration, and the occasional distance, Barry is now revealing another chapter of his life, one that has intrigued fans for years. At 79, the last surviving Bee Gee has opened up about his true feelings toward British pop legend Cliff Richard. For decades, fans speculated about the connection between two of pop's most iconic voices, careers often intersecting, yet personalities seeming to live in entirely different musical worlds. Barry, a man who rarely speaks without careful thought, chose this moment in his life to finally tell the truth about what Cliff Richard really meant to him. Reflecting on their early encounters during the swinging 60s, he admitted, "Cliff was one of the first artists who made me believe that you could be decent and famous at the same time." And with that, Barry Gibb offered not just a glimpse into his personal admiration, but into a musical era that shaped them both. Even in the glittering chaos of fame, when many artists were swallowed by the temptations and pressures of stardom, Cliff Richard stood apart. His poise, humility, and unshakable moral compass made him a beacon in an industry often ruled by excess. He never lost his faith, even when the business tried to break him, Barry recalled. For someone like Barry, who had witnessed the dark side of superstardom up close, Cliff's quiet steadiness wasn't just admirable, it was revolutionary, a subtle rebellion against the pitfalls of show business. But Cliff's impact went far beyond personal character. Barry remembered how his early triumphs opened doors for an entire generation of British artists. When we were still finding our sound, Cliff had already conquered the charts, he said. He showed us that you didn't have to be American to make it big. You could be from England or anywhere, and the world would still listen. That lesson would resonate deeply with the Bee Gees, who went on to define not just pop and disco music, but an entire cultural era. In Barry's eyes, Cliff Richard didn't just entertain. He dismantled the barriers that once kept British musicians from the global stage. Yet Barry's reflections weren't mere admiration. They were a recognition of a trailblazer whose influence shaped the very path the Bee Gees would follow, transforming ambition into legacy. There's a rare kind of respect that doesn't need constant calls or daily check-ins. It's quiet, steady, and enduring. Barry Gibb spoke about that very connection with Cliff Richard, addressing the quiet distance that grew between them over the years, a gap that puzzled many observers. He said, "We weren't the kind of friends who called each other every day, but whenever we met, there was always respect. Sometimes life just takes you in different directions." The whirlwind of the Bee Gees' rise to fame in the 1970s, hits like Stayin' Alive and How Deep Is Your Love, swept Barry into a life of non-stop touring, recording, and media frenzy, a pace that made sustaining personal relationships nearly impossible. When you're on top of the world, you think you have time for everyone, he reflected. But fame moves faster than friendship. Yet, despite the distance, Barry's admiration for Cliff never wavered. What I've always admired most about Cliff is that he stayed true to himself. He didn't follow trends, he made his own. Even when the world mocked him for being clean-cut or openly religious, Cliff stood tall. That courage, Barry noted, is rare in an industry obsessed with image and reinvention. He never let the stage change the soul, Barry added, his voice carrying the weight of someone who understood the cost of authenticity. In a world where fame can distort everything, Cliff Richard remained unshaken, a man whose steadiness was as enviable as it was inspiring. There's a quiet kind of heroism in survival, and Barry Gibb knows it better than most. In a particularly moving moment, he reflected on the fragile, unspoken bond shared by artists who've lived through the highs and heartbreaks of their generation. "We've both seen friends go too soon," he said, voice heavy with memory. "Maurice, Robin, Andy, all my brothers. They were my life. And Cliff has lost people too. When you've been in this business as long as we have, just surviving it is a miracle." His tone shifted, softening into something almost reverent. "Cliff's still here, still singing, still smiling. That's strength. That's faith in motion." In those words was a deeper truth, a kinship forged not just in music, but in endurance and legacy. "We're from an era where music came from the heart, not the machine." He added a gentle nod to the authenticity that defined them both. What struck Barry most about Cliff wasn't fame or resilience alone. It was the purity of his craft. "What I love about Cliff is that he still believes in melody, in lyrics that mean something. That's rare today." Over the years, the two occasionally exchanged quiet notes of encouragement, little reminders that even after loss, the music and the spirit goes on. Watching Cliff continue to tour, smiling through the years, inspired Barry to keep performing even after losing his brothers. In the end, Barry's reflection wasn't about gossip, drama, or confession. It was about gratitude, a heartfelt recognition of survival, of friendship, and of the enduring power of music to carry us through. It was a moment of pure, unguarded honesty, one music legend honoring another. Decades of quiet respect distilled into a few simple words. The world often craves drama, scandals, and rivalry, but the truth is far more elegant. Cliff Richard, Barry Gibb insists, is a good man, one of the best. He never gave up, never gave in, and never compromised the essence of who he is. That resilience, That unwavering integrity is what Barry will always admire. At 79, Barry Gibb speaks not as a superstar chasing the spotlight, but as a survivor, someone who has felt the dizzying heights of fame and the crushing weight of its lows. When he talks about Cliff, it's not gossip or hyperbole. It's reverent acknowledgement of a peer who shares the rare understanding of what it truly means to endure in this world. His words remind us that behind the glittering stage lights, the screaming crowds, and the relentless headlines, there exists a quiet fraternity of artists who have endured, evolved, and remained true to themselves. For Barry, speaking about Cliff Richard was never about revelation. It was about love, respect, and timeless appreciation for a man who, like him, never stopped believing in the power of music, heart, and faith.